but it's just part. I suppose it's inbuilt into the scenes that were written. You know, the way that it's structured. If you have a 3-minute kind of dialogue scene, then you shoot that, and that's everyone kind of gets used to it round about you. But if nowadays, I can't imagine what a commercial Hollywood script looks like today. I mean, I don't know how long the scenes would be, a page and a half or something. I don't know. But they just seem to be like signals. You know, this is going to happen. You know what that means, so let's go on and show you the other thing that's going to happen, because you know what that means too. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I'm curious about what Marilyn thought about the film. Did you get any feedback from her about it? And also, when you were making the film, did you feel the urge to dial her up? Say when you were making that scene in the woods that you felt was mysterious to you and you didn't understand, did you feel the need to call her and ask for an explanation?
I was too scared to ask her. It was so deep into it, but then I looked like a clown to ask her.
Yeah. You didn't want to reduce her confidence in you?
Yeah, I didn't tell a soul. I think you're the first people I've told. But she was involved, yeah. I think because it was her first novel, and she was not precious, but quite interested and concerned about the process and whose hands it was going to fall into. So we met quite a few times. She was. I met her first in here. She lived in Northampton initially, so we met there, and then she ended up with a part-time job in a university in England, and so we met there once or twice. And I talked to her, I gave her the script as the first draft and whatever, and she was very receptive to it. I think she was probably quite pleased that there was so much of, obviously with lots of cuts, but there was still so much of her book that was left. We talked about, funnily enough, that question about goodies and baddies. The one word that kept cropping up in our talks about it was a kind of generosity that you have to have when you're making something. And maybe that's the word that explains this thing. And she started telling me how it was almost the most important thing, that you had to have generosity towards the situations and the people you were writing about. And she talked about Dickens and having that generosity and all kind of things, which were nice and reassuring to me. She also visited us in the set, and she might have been being polite, I don't know, but when she stepped into the set, the house set, she said it's just like coming into the novel, So that was a very pleasing thing to hear. And she liked the cast. She met the girls, and she met Christine, and she really seemed quite pleased with the whole thing. But then again, I suppose as a novelist, if you have a work kind of realised and something visualised, it's got to be quite an exciting thing. I tried to get hold of her second book, Gilead. I read it. I came upon it just a little too late, and I was very, very busy at the time, not on film work, just kind of taking care of my life. And her agent had said, lots of other people were after it, and I was just a little tardy in getting a submission in, because they were looking for submissions for the book. And someone else got it. It was actually Robert Benton and Paul Newman, who had optioned it just before I got my hands on it. But obviously Paul Newman's dead now, so I don't know what will happen to it.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Forsyth. I'm an emerging filmmaker, and I was talking to you yesterday after the Q&A session. And I've done 3 documentaries so far, and hopefully a 4th one. And my question is, with your film Housekeeping, I saw, since it took place in the 50s and possibly late 40s, with the cars and the props, as for me as a filmmaker, I'm trying to, hopefully after I do my 4th documentary, and because I want to break into doing movies, what's the best advice or easiest way, for filmmakers to get, props and cars and the clothing from that decade, like the 50s, 40s, or possibly 1800s, because so that was just basically my question I wanted to ask as a filmmaker who tried to break through.
Mm-hmm. Well, the great thing about the States in particular is that whatever you're looking for, that you'll find people, enthusiasts and collectors, So I seem to remember, even in BC and even in Canada, for instance, if we wanted to get some cars for a street scene, the prop people would just put an ad in the local newspapers in those days and say, car enthusiasts, bring your 50s, cars to so-and-so, and it's always there, But as I would give you advice, as a filmmaker, and that is, don't jump into a period piece. I mean, make something that's more easy to accomplish. Just make something in your own locale, on your own streets, and think up something nice and simple. That's the best way to start.
Got one more question right here.
I was a little bit taken aback by the ending of this movie, because I haven't seen all of your films. They seem to end all on a almost upbeat note, that you feel like the characters will kind of like manage their lives and they can go on now. And I feel this ending is to me it's very tragic, just because like now this girl goes off with this crazy person and we don't know what's going to happen. Do you see this as a tragedy, or how does it align with? I feel it's very decidedly different from all the other endings of your films.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, funnily enough, it's probably the one area where the film departed most from the book, because in the book there was more of it wasn't quite a resolution, because she didn't describe a kind of great life, but as I say, the sister, the girl who went off with the aunt, described the life that they had as vagrants. So that was the life that they had, and it seemed to have gone into her adulthood, or her young adulthood, because she described at the very end of the book how sometimes they'd be riding a train and they would pass through Fingerbone, and they would maybe one season see the house as it was, the burnt out house, and later on they saw someone had taken over in the house, and the film, they melted into the emulsion, and gradually they just became, speckles of light at the end of the bridge. So that was, as a bit of a cheat, but that's what we wanted to do, because I thought if it had ended with words from that character, then you would have grounded it in a way,
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I hope the next time we have you back, it's with something new that you've done. I can
I'd like to see it here.
Yeah,
I'll donate you a print if it ever happens.
Well, thanks. I can only say it's been a real privilege to have you here and to be able to show your work, and I'm very grateful that you've come and joined us this weekend.
Well, I'm grateful to you, Jim, for making the whole thing happen, and for you guys to come along.